Let's start with binary file handling in Python programming language. What is a binary file? Binary files are stored in terms of bytes, 0 and 1s. The bytes within binary files represent the actual contents such as image, audio, video, compressed version of the other files, executable files, etc. So most of the files that we work on are all binary files. Binary files are not human readable. That's mean if you try to open this image, audio, video with any text editor, you can't recognize any of the content within it. Specific softwares are required to read or write the content of a binary file. A single bit change can corrupt the file and make it unreadable to the supporting application. Next, the Pickle module. Python considers everything as an object. All data type including list, tuple, dictionary, etc. are all considered as objects. If you have no any concept of objects, I will suggest you to go through my previous videos. Object occupies a cluster of memory and the memory is pointed by some name. During execution of a program, we may require to store current state of variables so that we can retrieve them later. To save any object structure along with data, Python provides a module called Pickle. The module Pickle is used for serializing, or you can say pickling, and deserializing, unpickling any Python object structure. I think that you all know the meaning of pickle. Pickle is used to preserve some foods, and the process is called pickling. So here in Python, the process of storing binary data is called pickling. And by deserializing or unpickling, we can retrieve data, that is the binary data, from the storage device. So for that, the Pickle module provides two methods, dump and load, to work with binary files for pickling and unpickling respectively. In text file handling, there are many ways to store data and to retrieve data. But in case of binary file handling, there are only two methods, dump and load. Dump function is used to store data within the file and load is used to retrieve data or fetch data from the file. Next, start with the dump method. Let me show you the working of the dump method. The dump method is used to convert Python objects for writing data into a binary file. The file in which data are to be dumped needs to be opened in binary write mode, that is the WB mode. B represents binary. Next, this is the syntax of the dump function. So dump function takes two arguments, the data object that is going to be stored within the file and the file object which is pointing to the file. So with the help of this dump function, we are going to store this data object within the file object. Let me show you an example. Before creating binary file, we need to import Pickle module. Then we have to take any data type, list, tuple, dictionary, any data type you want. Let me take list over here. Suppose I want to store a single record of a student. Suppose the roll number of the student is say 1. The name of the student is Ishan and his gender is male and he scored 95 in his last exam. Now, just like text handling, we need to use the open function to create a file. Open, then the file name is say student.data, then and the file is to be opened with a write binary mode, that is the WB mode. Now by using this Pickle module, let's call the dump function, and within the dump function there will be two arguments, the object that is going to be written into the file student.dat and the file object name, that is f over here. After writing into the file, we need to close the file by using the close function, f.close. Let me run the program. First of all, let me save the file. The file name is bin.file. Now let's run the program. Now nothing will be displayed within the console because this is a file handling program. The output has been saved within the file student.dat. Now let's move to the working directory. So look here, the binary file student.dat has been created. Now by using the load method of Pickle module, we are going to access the data which are stored within this student.dat. So here is the load method. Load method is used to load data from a binary file and it is called unpickling. The file to be loaded is opened in binary read, that is RB mode. Look at the syntax of the load. Load function accepts a single argument, that is the file object. from where the data is going to be retrieved. So the data will be fetched from the file object and will be stored within the store object. This store object may be a list, tuple, or dictionary according to the content of the file. Load record to a binary file. Just as before, we need to import the Pickle module. Then first of all, print data that were stored in the file. In the next line, we need to open the file, that is student.dat, in the RB mode, that is the read binary mode. Next, let me create a stored object. Here I have written L is my stored object. Then by using this Pickle module, we have to call the load function, and the load function accepts a single argument, that is a file object. Here it is F. Since the data stored within the student.dat in the form of list, so the load function fetch the list and stored within L. Now after that, let me print value of L. After that, we need to close the file. Now let's run the program. Look what happened. 1 Asian M95. So this was stored within the file student.dat, and this data is loaded by the load function of Pickle module. Look, if I try to open student.dat manually by using any text editor, look, you can't recognize any data or the content of the file. Binary data is not human readable. If we need to access the content of the file, we need a specific application. Here it is the Python programming language. So by using Python programming language, we can access the data from the binary file and print it over here or in the console. So these are some binary file access mode. RB represent read only, WB means write only, AB means append only. That's mean if the file does not exist, AB mode will create a new file just like the WB. But if the file exists, new data will be added at the bottom of the existing data. R plus B, or you can write RB plus, this means along with the read we can also write also. W plus B means write as well as read in the binary mode. A plus B means append as well as read in binary mode. Next, let me show you how to write multiple records to a binary file. So here are some steps to follow. Look, in the step 1, open binary file in the write mode, that is in WB mode, where B means binary. Store each record in a list or dictionary. Dump the list or dictionary into a file by using dump method. Repeat the process n times for entering n records. Let's write a program on this. Dump multiple records in a binary file. Suppose I want to enter employee ID, name, and salary. In this program, I will store ID, name, and salary of multiple employees. Look how it can be implemented. First of all, let me import the Pickle module. Then let's define a function, say add record. Within this, first of all, I have to open a binary file, say employee1.dat, because it's a data file. That's why I have written the extension as dat, and it must be open in the AB mode, or you can also open it in the WB mode. Now print enter records of employee. This is just a display message. Next, this is a false print statement. RECNO, this is record number, which is initialized with 0. It will count the number of records stored within the file. Now we will take data from user and dumping in the file as list object. You can also take the dictionary object also. Since we are going to store multiple records, we need a while loop. So while true, that's mean this while loop will execute for infinite time, and within this while loop the record number variable will be incremented by 1. So this is the first record, and the first line would be like this: record number, say RECNO. That's mean in the output it will show record number 1. Then let's take ID, name, and salary as input. So ENO equal to input enter employee number, then employee name, ename input, enter employee name, then enter salary. After accepting all this data from the user, let's create a list, say L equal to, within third bracket, eno comma ename, then sal. So by this way we can create a list named as L. After that we have to use the pickle module, and by using the pickle module, let's call the dump function, and within the dump function the list object and the file object f. So this list L will be stored within the file object f. This file object is pointing to the file employee1.dat. Now ask the user whether he wants to add more record or not. For that, choice equal to input, enter more record, yes or no. If choice in, say either small n or capital N, if the choice is n, then the record entry is over, and for that we need to stop the loop, and for that I have written break. As soon as the program encounters n in the choice variable, it will execute break and stop the while loop, and the control will come out from the while loop. Now outside the while loop, let's print number of records entered equal to recno. So recno is a variable which will store the number of records stored within the file employee1.dat. So if you print recno, then it will display the number of records stored by you at this point of time. If you want to see the size of the file, for that let's write like this: print size of the file is f.tel. So I've already explained or mentioned the tel function in the text file handling. So if you have no idea regarding this tel function, go and look my previous videos where the tel function has been explained. So this tel functions returns the position of the current file pointer. And after that, we need to close the file. This is an important line. If you do not close the file may get corrupted or become useless. Now let's come out from the function add record. So here is my main code. From main code, let's call the function add record. Let's run the program. It will ask for the data for the employee 1. So suppose the first employee is with employee number 1. Then suppose the employee name is Akash and salary say 35k. Next, do you want to enter more record? Yes. And this is for record 2. Enter more record. Now this time I'm pressing N, so it will stop the data entry. Look, so number of records entered is 3 and size of the file is 121. It is showing in bytes, 121 bytes. Let me show you another process of writing multiple records into a binary file. So dump multiple records in a binary file, method 2. Now the structure of the program will remain same as before. Let me change the name of the binary file as employee2, employee2.dat. Okay, and let me change it as wb. Then this will be remain same. Let's take a blank list over here. Now record no equal to record no plus 1. This will be remain same, except employee number, employee name and salary. This will be remain same. Now in place of this list, let's create a dictionary. Okay, so within second bracket open and close, let's write like this: eno colon eno, because a dictionary contains key value pair. So eno here is the key and the value accepted within the eno variable will be the value. Ename will be ename, then cell is cell. After creating this dictionary, so this dictionary contains the first record. So after accepting all the data from the user, we are creating this dictionary. Then we need an append function. L is the blank list, so we are going to append the record, that is EREC, employee record, within the list L. That's mean here we are not doing any file operation. We are simply adding data into the list, and the data is nothing but a dictionary. Let's remove this file pickle.dump from here. Now this loop will continue to add record within the list. After coming out from the while loop, look, after coming out from the while loop, now we need to call the pickle.dump and dump the whole list into the file object f. Sorry, I have written a wrong dictionary name over here. I have written srec and erec. It will be erec, that is employee record. In short, it is erec. So these two names will be same. That's all. One more thing, since I have written ftel over here, so we need to write the fclose function just after this f.tel. Otherwise, it will not work. Next, reading multiple record from binary file. So these are the steps for reading multiple records from a binary file. Binary file needs to open in read binary mode, that is RB mode. Load the record of the binary file into a local list or dictionary. Print the list or dictionary. Repeat the step 2 or 3 for displaying successive record until the code encounters end of file. Let me write down the program first. As I have shown you the two ways of writing multiple records in a file, in the same way I will show you reading multiple records from the binary file. So look at the first method, loading multiple records from a binary file. So this is the method 1. Let's import the pickle module, then let's open the file employee 1.dat that I have created just now, and it should be open in the read binary mode, that's mean RB mode. Next, a display message, records are. Now, since while reading multiple records from a binary file, the program will extract one record during each iteration, and when the controls goes at the end of the file, it will generate end of file error. So to handle this error, we need a error handling code. So in Python, error handling code is written by using try except block. So this is the try block, the code which may encounter some exception or error that must be written within the try block. Within this try block, let's write the while loop. So it will run infinitely. So while true, rec equal to pickle dot, this is the load function to load the record, and from where it is going to load, it will load from the file f. This is a file object. This file object is pointing to the employee1.dat file. Now let's print the record. Now when the program encounters end of file exception, the control will move to the except block, and within except block we have nothing to do, so just pass the control. Now come out from the try except block. Now close the file by using the close function. So within this while loop, this pickle.load will first load the first record into the REC, then it will print the record. Again, when the while loop continues, in the second iteration, it will fetch the second record and stored within REC. In the next line, the second record will be displayed. So in the same way, it will extract all the records one by one. So when the control goes at the end of the file, it encounters an exception. That is, no more records are present within the file. So nothing to fetch, it arises an exception. So whenever it gets an exception, the control moves to the except block. So within except block, since it is an end of file error, so I can write the error name as EOF error. So when the control comes within the except block, here is nothing to do, so the pass the control. So it will come out from here and close the file by using the close function. Now, if you don't have any idea regarding the try except block, then go and visit the videos where the exception handling has been explained. The link for the exception handling videos are given in the description box. Now let me save the file, run the file. Look what happens. It will fetch all the record from the employee1.dat. Here I have not written any function. It is better to write the code within the function. Suppose I am writing define display record. We need to maintain this indentation. That's all. Within the main code, we need to call this function display record. The same thing will happen, nothing different. Now, loading multiple records from the binary file. Let me show you the method 2. As I have shown you, the second method of writing data into the binary file, where all the records are residing within a list, and the list is dumped within the binary file. The content of the list are dictionary, and the dictionary contains the record. Now in that case, we don't require this try except block. First of all, open employee say 2.dat using the RB mode. After that, L will be initialized with the list, and after that we can close the file. That's mean the file operation ends over here. Now let's display this message, records are. After that, let's run a loop, for loop, for rec in L, because L contains all the records. So for record in L, let's print the record rec. Sorry, this will be F. This is the file object name. And then we run the for loop for rec in L. So it will extract dictionaries from the L and it will print all the dictionary one by one. So let's run the file. Look, it is showing all the dictionaries. So this is the first record, the first dictionary is the first record, second dictionary is the second record, third dictionary is the third record. So this is the complete program. Next, search record from binary file. Here also I will show you two methods. Now look at the step for searching a record in a binary file. First of all, we have to open the binary file in binary read mode, that is RB mode. Next, load the record of the binary file into a local list or dictionary. Compare the record with our given value through linear search method. If found, display the record. Next, repeat the step 2 and 3 for fetching successive record until the code encounters end of file. Let's write the program by looking into this algorithm. Searching record from a binary file employee1.dat. I think you know the structure of employee1.dat. It contains all the record separately in the file, and all records are in the list format. So this is the first method that I'm going to show you first. First of all, import Pickle Module. Then let's open the file by using the open function. The file name is employee1.dat and it must be open in the RB mode. Better to define a function first. Say define search record, and let the parameter of this function be ENO, that is the employee number. Bracket close. Now create a variable found equal to false. The initial status of this variable found is false. That's mean record has not yet been found. Now let's start the try block. Within try block there will be a while loop, while true. So fetch the first record by calling pickle.load and the file object variable, that is f. Next, if rec of 0, because within each record employee number are residing at the first position, so the first position of a list is indexed by 0. So record 0, if record 0 equal to ENO, that is ENO means the employee number supplied by the user. If these two are equal, then print employee name as rec of 1, because name is residing at the second position of the list. And next, the employee salary rec of 2. And if the record is found, then the found variable will be set as true, and there is no need to proceed further, so break the loop. Now as usual, write the except function, and if it encountered end of file error, so we will just pass the control, and outside the try except block, file should be closed by the close function. Next, if not found, that is if the searched record is not within the file, so it will print record does not exist. Now let's write the main code. So within the main code, let's take the employee number as input from the user. ENO equal to input, enter employee number, and then call the function search record with the parameter ENO. So here this is the output. When I enter employee number as 2, it is showing the corresponding employee name and his salary. In place of writing these two print statement, we can also write like this: print the whole record as record is, say, REC. So let's run the program again. Look, now this time I am giving 3. So it is showing the corresponding list, that is 3, and the employee name is Anusri and his salary is 35,600. Now if I give an employee number as 10, so 10 is not present within my file, so record does not exist. Next, let me search the record from the binary file employee2.dat, and this is the second method. So within the employee2.dat, I think you remember the structure of the file. So there is a list, and this list contains some dictionary. The first one is the ENO, that is the employee number, and it is 1. Then ename is initialized with, say, an employee name Akash. Then salary SA is initialized with some value, say 35k. So there are 3 dictionary within this list, and this is the structure of the employee2.dat. So there is a single list which contains multiple records as dictionary. And if the content of the file is like this, then how we are going to search record? Import pickle, then search record. It will be remain same. It will accept an employee number, and this time the file name will be employee2.dat. It will be remain same, found equal to false. So before found equal to false, let me initialize this L variable with the content of the file. So pickle.load within bracket, it will be F. So this load function load the entire list within L. So L contains the whole content of the file, and this list contains all the records. Now we no need to use this file anymore, so f.close. For if I write REC in L, that's mean it will extract one record, or better to say one dictionary at a time from the list L. And if REC of ENO is equal to the given employee number, the ENO, which is supplied as a function argument, and the value of REC ENO is equal to ENO, then print the corresponding record, and found will become true. If not found, then print record does not exist. One more thing, if the record is found within the file, no more to search, just break the loop. So save the file and let me run the file. Look, it is asking for the employee number. Let the employee number be 2. So it will print the corresponding record. ENO is 2. Ename, that is employee name, is Choi, and his salary SA equal to 31k. So this is the second technique for finding record within a file. The main code will be remain same. Next, move to update records in binary file. Here also I will show you the 2 method. Look at the steps. First of all, we have to open the binary file in the RB mode. Open another file in write binary or append binary mode. So here we require 2 files. The file from where we are going to extract the record, and the file where we are going to write the updated record along with the other record. Now load the record from the first binary file into the local list or dictionary. Get the value that we need to update and check whether this value is in the list or not by using linear search technique. Now in the step 5, if the record is available, update fields of that record and store the record into the second file. Else, simply store the record into the second file. That's mean after fetching a record from the first file, if there is any requirement for updation, update the record and store it into the second file. And if there is no need to update, just simply store the record into the second file. Repeat the step 3, 4 and 5 for the successive record in the first file. Close both the files. Now at last, delete the first file because we don't require the first file anymore. Now, rename the second file with the name of the first one. So after the last operation, it will be assumed that the original file has been updated. Let's write the program. Update binary file employee1.dat. Let me show you the first method of updating any record within a binary file. I think you remember that employee1.dat contains record in the form of list. That is, all records are stored in separate list. Before starting updating any record, let me print the content of the file. For that, I have to define a display method. Now within the main code, let's call display and test whether it is running correctly or not. So these are the records stored within employee1.dat, and this display is before updation. Come to the code. Here we will define update record function. From within the main code, we will take our input from user and employee number as input from the user. So input, enter employee number whose record needs to be updated. And after that, we have to call the update record function with the parameter eno. Records after modification or updation, again call the display function to verify whether the records has been updated or not. So in the first line of the main code, let me write it like this: records before updation. Now let's move to the update record function. Here we will write the code for the updation. For that, we require two file objects. The first one, say f1. So we have to open the above file name employee1.dat in RB mode, and next there will be another file object f2. Here we will open a file, say temp.dat, because it is a temporary file and it must be open in WB mode or AB mode, that is append mode, or in the write mode. We can write any one of them. Let's write AB. So as per the algorithm, I will fetch records from employee1.dat one by one, and if there is a need of updation, we have to update the record and store within the temp.dat. And if there is no need of updation, just simply append the record within temp.dat. So for that, let's start the try block. Within try block, so this is the while loop, while true. So this record will be loaded from the file 1, that is the f1 file object. Sorry, it is dot. Next, if rec of 0, if it is equal to eno, the first parameter of every record contains the employee number. So rec 0 means the employee number from the file, that will be checked with eno. Eno is the, sorry, I forgot to write the eno in the function parameters. When we call update record from the main code, we have sent eno. So this eno will be passed to this update record function, and that will be checked with rec of 0. Now if rec 0 is equal to eno, code will ask to input new employee name. That's mean rec1 equal to input enter new employee name, and that new name will be stored within rec of 1. The second parameter of the fetched record will be updated by the employee name, and the third parameter, sorry, the index will be 2. So within rec2, we have to take input for the new salary. So enter new salary. Now let's come outside the if statement. Then again I have to call pickle, and this time we need to call the dump function. So what we are going to dump? This record rec. It may or may not be updated according to this condition. So if the condition satisfy, it will ask for the new employee name and new salary, and that will be stored within rec1 and rec2. So that record will be dumped within the second temporary file, and if the condition does not satisfy, the fetched record will directly dumped within the second file, that is within the temp.dat. If there is an exception, we need to pass the control, and here we have to close both the file, f1.close as well as f2.close. Now look, f2, that is the temp.dat, has been filled up with the updated value. So we don't require this employee1.dat anymore. And for that, we need a OS module import. Let's import an OS module. By using this OS module, let's call the remove function. So this remove function can remove, or better to say delete, any file or folder from your machine. So let's delete employee1.dat, and by using this OS module, call the rename function, rename the temp.dat with employee1.dat, the name of the previous file. So look what I am doing over here. This is a trick. We are removing the employee1.dat because this is an old file, and temp.dat is my new file which contains updated value. Now if we rename this temp.dat with the previous file name, that is employee1.dat, it seems like that employee1.dat is updated with the new data and there is no concept of temp.dat. Let's run the program. Let's see is there any error or not. Look, it is showing the previous record. 1 Akash 35,000, 2 Joy 32,000, 3 Anusri 35,600. Enter employee number whose record needs to be updated. Let's update the second records. For that I am writing 2, and now it is asking for the new employee. Here it is Joy. Let's update the name of this person with, say, Joya, and his new salary is, say, 31,000. Look, after updation, again I call the display method for displaying the content of the file. Look, the second record, Joy, has been updated to Joya, and 32,000 has been updated to 31,000. Now if I run the file once more, and if I write 10 as an employee name, look what happened. There is no change in the updated file, but it is better to write any message if there is no change in the file. For that, let's take a found variable, and that must be initialized with, say, false. Now if this if statement becomes true, so it will ask for the new name and salary, and at the same time found will be initialized with true. That's mean we have found the record and the record has been updated. Now at last, in this function, if not found, then we have to write like this: no such employee number in the database. Let's again run the file. Now if I write 10, so this time it will show no such employee number in the database. Now let me show you the second method of updating any record within a binary file. I think you remember the content of employee2.dat. So within employee2.dat, all records are stored within a dictionary or in the form of dictionary, and all dictionary are stored within a single list. Now this time update binary file employee2.dat, and this is the method 2. Look, in this case we don't require this OS module. We will change all the code within this update record function. So let's delete all the content of the update record function, and within display, so it will be employee2.dat, and it must be opened in RB mode. I also have to change the content of the display function. So after opening employee2.dat in RB mode, let's write a variable L, and that must be loaded with the file object F, that is the content of employee2.dat. Since this file contains a single list which contains all the records, so that list will be loaded within the variable L. So L become a list. Now if I write for record in L, let's print the record. Let's see what it gives the output. And after pickle.load, close the file right over here. Since L is initialized with the full content of the file, so we don't require the file anymore. So by iterating over L, we can print the records within the file. Now let's run the display function first. For that, we don't require this line. Okay, let me comment it. And since update record contains nothing, for that let me write pass. Let's run the program. Look, this is the record from the employee2.dat. It contains a dictionary, and there are 3 dictionaries. That means 3 records are there. Now we are going to update any one of this record. Now from within the main method, we need an employee number that is going to be updated. We need to call the update record function with the parameter ENO. And after updation, we need to call the display method again to see whether the content of the file has been updated or not. Now let's move to the update record function. So delete this pass keyword. Let's open the file employee2.dat in RB plus mode. RB plus mode means the file is opened in a read mode along with the write mode. So we can do both read and write operation on employee2.dat. That's why I have written RB, this is read binary mode, along with the write facility. Now, just as before, L will be loaded with the whole content of employee2.dat. So for that I have to write the file object name F. There will be a variable which will tell whether the employee number which is supplied by the user is present within the file or not. Let's start iterating over L for REC in L. So in the first iteration, it will accept or retrieve the first record that will be stored within REC. REC of ENO is equal to ENO. Then the given employee number is present within the file, and for that we need to update the rest of the parameter. So in the first line, found will be true. Next, REC of ename input, enter new employee name. Next, record the salary essay. For that we need to take the new salary, enter new salary. Now come out from the loop. Let's write if found. Then that's mean if there is a change in the record and any one of the record has been updated, seek the file pointer at the beginning of the file. That's mean we are moving the file pointer at the beginning of the file. After loading the data within the variable L, the file pointer goes to the end of the file. And since we are reusing the same file for writing, so we need to move the file pointer at the very beginning. So for that I have written f.seek 0. Now look what happened. We require pickle.dump to dump the same list within the file. This time the list contains the updated value. And then let me print a message for successful updation, record updated. And if the employee number does not exist, for that I have to write ENO does not exist. And at last, file should be closed by the close function. Again, I am repeating, update record function is accepting ENO. This is given by the user. We need to open employee2.dat in RB plus mode. That's mean we can read and write both on this file. Plus represent write. Since this file contains a single list which contains multiple dictionaries and each dictionary represents a record. So when we do pickle.load F, the entire content will be loaded or copied within the variable L. A found variable is initialized with false. By using this for loop, we are extracting one dictionary one by one from this list. And if the first parameter ENO of the record is matched with ENO given by the user, then the record found, so found will be true. And then we need to update the corresponding name and salary of that person. And after coming out from the for loop, if found, that's mean if there is a change within the list L, so we need to seek the file pointer at the beginning of the file, then dump the list within the file F, and then a message record updated. If not found, the control will move to the else part. Here it will print ENO does not exist. After that, F close. Let's run the program first. Look, it is showing a record before updation, and then it is asking for an employee number whose record needs to be updated. Let's update the last record, that is the record number employee number 3. So 3. For that it will ask for the new name. Here it is already written Anusri, and this time I am writing Anu. And the new salary will be say 32,500. Enter. Look, record updated, and this is the new file which contains the updated record. Look at the last record. ENO3, ename Anu, and salary becomes 32,500. That's all. Next, delete record from a binary file. So here are some steps for deleting records from a binary file. Look at the step 1. Deletion of record means modifying a record. That means the process is similar as updation of a record. Open binary file in read binary mode, that is RB mode. Open a second file, that is another file, in write binary mode or append binary mode. Next, load the record from the first binary file to the local list or dictionary. In the step 5, get the value that we need to delete and check whether this value is in the list or not by using linear search technique. Number 6, if the record is not available, then store the record into the second file. Repeat the step 4, 5 and 6 for the successive record in the first file. Close both the files. Delete the first file and rename the second file with the name of the first one. So this sort of technique I've already shown you during the modifying a record. In this case also I will show you the two methods. Let's begin the first method. Deleting record from the binary file employee1.dat, method 1. So this file contains records in separate list, and for that I have defined a display method which will display the content of the file. It will extract the list one by one and print the record. So here I am not going to explain this function because I have already explained in the last section. So when we call the display function, it will display the content of the file. Now this time I will ask the user to enter an employee number to delete a record. So ENO equal to input, enter employee number to delete, and let's call delete record function with a parameter ENO, and after deletion we need to display the content of the file. So records after deletion, so again call the display function to see whether the record has been deleted or not. Now we are going to define the method delete record with the parameter ENO. In this function I have to open two files, that is the source file employee1.dat in the RB mode and another file, that is temp.dat in the WB mode. The record with this employee number will not be present over here. Let's continue. Next, the try block. While true, let's initialize a variable REC which contains a record one by one, and that will be loaded with the record of the F1 file object, that is employee1.dat file. And now if record of 0 not equal to ENO, and if the condition satisfies, then we have to do this operation pickle.dump rec comma f2. That's mean if the first element of the record matches with the input value, then that record will not be dumped into the next file or the second file, that is f2, or in other words temp.dat. So all the records other than ENO will be dumped into the file temp.dat. That's mean temp.dat will be filled up with all the records of employee1.dat other than the employee number supplied by the user. Now in the except block, since it arises a EOF error, within this let's pass the control. Now we need to close both the file f1 and f2, and at this point of code we need to delete the first file employee1.dat and rename temp.dat with the name of the first file, that is employee1.dat, and for that we require import OS module. So over here os dot remove employee1.dat, then os dot rename temp.dat comma employee1.dat. That's all. Let's run the program. So it is showing the record before deletion. Look, if I want to delete the second record, that is 2 Joya 31K, so let's write 2 as the employee number and enter. Sorry, there is an error, pickle.load. Oh sorry, there will be a dot in between pickle and load, so that's why it is showing an error. Okay, so again let's run the program. I'm giving 2 as an input. So after deletion, it is showing 1 Akash 35k, 3 Anusri 35,600. Look, I think you notice that the second record has been deleted. Next, the second method of deleting record from a binary file. Deleting record from the binary file, employee 2.dat. So this is the method 2. So before start writing the program, let me display the content of the file. I think that you remember that this employee 2.dat contains a single list which contains multiple records in the form of dictionary. So for that, within the display function, I open the file employee2.dat in RB mode. After that, pickle.loadf. So it will load the single list within this variable L and then close the file. Since all records are stored within L, so we can iterate this L and get the individual record by using this loop. Before start writing the second method, let me print the content of the file first. So within the main code, I call the display function and rest of the codes are disabled. So after executing the file, so these are the records. All the records are in the form of dictionary. Now let's move back to the code. Let's enable all this line. So ENO input enter employee number to delete. We need to call the function delete record with the parameter ENO. Next, records after deletion, again we have to call the display function to see whether the record with a given employee number has been deleted or not. And in this method we don't require this OS module, so I am deleting this line. So we need only the pickle module. Let's delete the pass within the delete record function. So this delete record function is accepting the employee number whose record is going to be deleted. Here I have to open the file employee2.dat in the RB plus mode. RB plus mode means opening a file in read binary mode along with write facility. The L will be initialized with the single list which is residing within employee2.dat. Next, let initialize a variable found with say false, and let's take a empty list temp. Now after that we are going to iterate over L. Now here I will check if REC of ENO not equal to ENO, then temp.append REC, else found equal to true. It will be append. So look, what does this code signifies? So we are extracting each and every record from the list L one by one, and here each record is a dictionary. So the first element of the record is the employee number. So by using this key ENO, we are searching that the REC of ENO, is it not equal to with the ENO? If ENO is not matched with the ENO of the record, then that record will be added or append within the temp list. And when the given ENO becomes equal to the ENO of the record, so it will move to the else part. That's mean the record which we are going to delete is present within the file or within the list, and it should not be added within the temp list. So the control will move to the else part, and found will be initialized with true. Now if found, that's mean if the deleted record is found within the list or within the file, so we need to seek the file pointer at the beginning of the file, and after that we need to call the dump function of pickle module and dump temp within F. And in the next line, let's write a message record deleted, else print record does not exist, and at the last we need to close the file. I've already explained this technique in the last section or during updation of a file. Let's run the program and see whether it is working correctly or not. First of all, it is showing records before deletion. Let's delete the second record. So enter employee number to delete. I'm writing 2 over here. Look, after deletion, record deleted. That's mean the process is successful after deletion. So there are only 2 records, number 1 and number 3. So 2 has been deleted. That is, Joy is deleted from our database. So this is the complete code to delete a record. Advantage of binary file. Binary files are faster than text file in processing. The content of binary files cannot be copied using text editor. Binary files take less space compared to text files. So this is all for this video. Still, if you have any problem, feel free to write in the comment box. I will try to reply you back as soon as possible. Thank you.